So we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another classic Sunday live stream. Today we have a very special guest. And as I mentioned in my announcement, this session will be all in English. So I have a couple of requests from you guys. So if you can ask your questions in English, that would be great for us. Plus, today we will try to answer the questions relatively to the IT industry and AI and machine learning, and also around the topics that we discussed today. So probably there will be no time if you ask questions related to Poland, not related to IT industry. So this is a very small introduction that I wanted to have. So as I said, today we have a very special guest, actually one of my best friends in the world. We met in Poland, we worked in Poland, and we became very good friends. Now he lives in the United States. So Konrad, appreciate it, and thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Okan, for inviting me. Appreciate the opportunity.
No worries. I believe today's session is one of the most important sessions that I actually ever made to. So I'm hoping, and I'm sure actually, that this session will bring really great value to the people, to my audience. I'm also pretty sure that there will be follow-ups after that, hopefully, after this session. So I will actually, let me try to open our agenda on here. So how it works, of course, we have an agenda, and I ask you questions, and then, of course, I try to go back and ask a couple questions from the chat from time to time, like 2 questions to you, 2 questions from chat. This is how the flow works usually, but we'll see. Of course, it depends on the questions that we will get from the chat. Okay?
For the record, I haven't seen the agenda, so it'll be very natural, I think.
Cool. That's spontaneous then.
I was just told to show up at 10 a.m. in Central Time and speak, so.
It's better. It's more natural. So actually, I don't want this of course discussion to be formal, since we are really good friends. So maybe really brief. If you like to introduce yourself, that would be great for of course, the audience.
Sure. So my name is Konrad Konarski. I'm actually Polish. I was born in Poland, left when I was 4 years old to Canada, and then moved to the United States more than 12, 13 years ago. And then I went back for 2 years to work in Poland, where I led some AI teams and some design thinking teams, and that's where I met you, Gökhan. We became, like you said, really close friends, and colleagues, and we worked around the AI world and also hung out in Wrocław. So it was a great experience, and now I'm back in Houston, where I run a AI innovation consortium, which is a collective group of Fortune 500 companies and large universities across North America, centered around evolving different dimensions of AI, including workforce development, including these laboratories that we have to help industries evolve artificial intelligence, and a few other things.
That's great. Actually, we will discuss that in detail. This is actually one of our main topics for today, AI Innovation Consortium, and we of course have some more different topics. So I have a question, since actually it's a very short question. I just want to hear from you on that. You were born in Poland, and you have some Polish culture with you, and you lived in Poland for quite some time, and you worked here. We worked here together. How do you see Poland as a country, as an evolving country in Central Europe, and why do you think Poland having a lot of investments from especially American companies?
Right. Well, I mean, so I'll cover this in the cliche answer first, because everybody that has done a little bit of digging can probably know that, very educated country, highly technically skilled, low costs in labor, right? Fluent in English, or generally fluent in English, so it provides a very attractive, I guess they call it nearshore market. So you get high quality talent that can interact with English speaking industries, very technically skilled, like I said, right? Inexpensive relative to other areas. So I think from that dimension, and I'm looking at it from IT, but I'm sure also from manufacturing and everything, it's the same. Right. You have, and you know, that infrastructure to support industrial manufacturing, to support IT development is become, or is very robust in Poland right now, right? So it has all the reasons for someone to try to save costs onshore to move to a place like this, either to facilitate development or manufacturing or whatever. So, but that's the cliche answer. I think maybe the more personal answer is, I think beyond that dimension of highly skilled infrastructure, there's also culturally a very hard working ethic behind a lot of people in Poland, right? So there's, I think, from what I've interacted with and from what I've heard, also, it's a recognized international market for successful delivery because of the skill sets and because of the hardworking nature of the individuals. By the way, I hear like a background clicking. Is that you?
Sure. Or is that? I'm not sure, honestly.
Sounds like somebody's clicking.
Let me go on mute just for a second. Is it better now? No, actually, I muted you. Sorry. I'm not sure. Maybe it's you. But it's okay. It's not. It doesn't bother me.
No, it's no problem. It's gone now, by the way. But anyway, all right.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with you. And also there's maybe some political things going on in Europe, especially with Brexit, because we see the influence of Brexit in Poland, especially, I mean, if I need to give some examples from IBM, we see many examples of data being migrated from UK to Poland just because of the reasons that you counted. So maybe that's another effect. But the other things, I fully agree with you. So probably we will even see more and more investment in the future. This is, of course, my personal opinion. And
right. I knew you were going to throw that question out at some point. I have some further thoughts around, maybe the path that Poland professionals or people working in Poland take. But I suppose you have those in your question that I haven't seen yet. So I won't jump the gun. I'll let you be the host here.
Sure. So, but okay, then maybe not as a professional, but as a person, how do you see Poland, like culturally, and how is people behavior in Poland? What would you like to say about, especially against maybe foreigners, because there is a biased opinion about Poland in Turkey, not only in Turkey, in generally maybe in also Europe, saying that Polish people are robust about foreigners. How would you like to articulate this?
Oh, you're getting me right into the weeds here with this discussion. So I'll be honest.
Just very brief.
I had a interesting polarized sort of experience, right? So on one end, I had a lot of great friends that I built relationships with, including you, including a lot of Polish people. Mm-hmm. And then interestingly, on the other end, right? So I think if I shave my beard, I look very Polish, but with my beard, I don't necessarily look that Polish, right? And I have my Polish speaking accent is actually sounds. Well, I mean, I'm fluent. I speak both my parents are Polish, but it doesn't sound perfect. So interacting with some people, and I'll say some, not all, right? There was. I've never experienced in America what I experienced in my own country, which was a slight, I'll say, judgment, to be politically correct, of me because they didn't think I was Polish, which was very, very ironic in light of the fact that I was Polish 100%. And everywhere else I've traveled, I've never seen that. So there was that, right? I don't know about the workforce piece, right? I don't know how that affects people's circumstances when trying to find a job, because I got what I got as a position living in the U.S. and got brought on and lived in my little IT bubble for 2 years without on the professional end without seeing that, but on the personal end I did experience that in a very ironic way,
right. Well, actually, I witnessed on those some of the examples that you gave. Actually, people were thinking that you were not Polish, and when you start to speak Polish, they were backing down. It was just a funny conversation from time to time. I also witnessed that. So yeah, I agree with you on that. So I think we can go to our next discussion topic, if you will. And I'm checking the chat at the same time. There's no specific questions at the moment that we can respond, so I will just go with the next topic. So I would like to just skip to the professional side a bit and ask about your maybe current responsibilities that you do. Actually, what are your current responsibilities as an I would call you as an AI thought leader, if you will, because I see you as an AI thought leader in the industry, and I see you as my mentor, as you know, and you're great at it. And what are your daily responsibilities being an AI thought leader in the industry?
Right. Well, so as the director of operations and the chair of the consortium,
right.
So the goal of the consortium, I kind of just briefly mentioned it in my intro, but basically it's to help industry and academia come together around artificial intelligence, specifically to help industries that are building strategic roadmaps or looking to deploy AI, help them break those barriers of adoption of artificial intelligence, which are anything from just knowing where to start to validating the technical feasibilities to just finding how to scale the technology. If you're a big company, it's one thing to build a pilot project and another to scale it to 1,000 sites or whatever it is. So my responsibility is to grow that entire initiative. So it's standing up new incubators, which are basically like laboratories, but designed to allow industries to operate in those laboratories, to break those barriers.
Right.
In addition, building alliances with the technology companies, big tier one, so the IBMs, the Amazon Web Service companies, the Verizon Wireless, which is a big telecom company in North America,
right.
Tying those partnerships into supporting the efforts of the consortium. Working with the deans of the universities to build different workforce development programs within the universities to support the efforts of the students that are working in the incubators, that are working with and the client, I call them clients, but they're just end users, let's say, the users of the technology.
Right.
So multi-dimensional role, I suppose. I mean, I could talk about it for 45 minutes, but ultimately I think so there's that dimension to it. And then you mentioned thought leader, which I didn't really answer that part. I said, I suppose on the thought leader end, it's to share these things, both are the success we've had out of our applied research, these sort of discussions even, right? Like talking about workforce development and seeing how what we do or what we will do can help share the success of our programs, attract more interest, help somebody find a job. I mean, help someone direct their professional career.
Right.
Things like that.
Yeah, on that point, I would like to actually ask another question that I didn't ask before, actually, even in our conversations. I would like to understand how this idea came up, like, and when it came up.
You mean the consortium?
The consortium, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm going to make this all about me today. Okay, so
it's okay. It's good. That's the point. That's the point. No worries.
But I have some dimensions I want to talk to your audience. So I hope
sure,
I'll try to tie it in. But so actually 12 years ago, or maybe even more, I was brought on to run an IT division for one of my clients, which was a mid-tier size, $200, $300 million a year company that manufactured different products for oil and gas. And by no means is our consortium right now centered around oil and gas, but that's how it started. And then what happened is during that time, I began working with, I actually sat on a roundtable discussion with a few academics, the head of engineering at Texas A&M, or the associate head or whatever it was, and a few other people. And in that discussion, there was, because it was supposed to be industry and academia, and I felt that there was a possibility to collaborate there to help support evolution of technology. And at that time, it was Internet of Things technology. Mm-hmm. So essentially, I reached out to those people, and I started an IoT consortium that, over a very quick period of time, had the attraction. I'm sorry?
First, it was IoT then.
Yeah, it was. I mean, so this is completely different life, right? This is 12 years ago. IoT consortium. It started at Texas A&M University, and actually we started evolving different applied research work that we piggybacked. They have this big firefighting pool in Texas A&M. If you land, not that anyone in your audience is going to randomly show up here, but the College Station is where their campus is, which is a city in Texas. And if you land a plane, because there's an airport there, they have a firefighting school next to the airport, which is basically like it's a facility, an outdoor facility that has like refineries, all these different simulated real world areas. Right. And actually, occasionally they have simulated firefighting in a mock airplane. So you're landing, and if you don't know about the school, you see a burning airplane on the side of the runway, basically, and you kind of freak out. But anyway, we worked there, and we deployed different IoT technologies into that lab, right? And that brought a lot of success, and so did the industry really attracted itself to that. Right. And that continued on. I think it's still maybe in existence. I stepped away because I wanted to focus on like commercial avenues of my career. Mm-hmm. But I felt that was a successful model to emerging tech because it demanded that collaboration. And also, I think it demands like not just a collaboration between academia and industry, but a collaboration between industry, especially around AI, because there's a lot of challenges around AI that demand that people share information, that break the silos between, not just within their organization, but between organizations. Right.
Well, that's actually a great story that I also didn't know. So thanks for sharing that. My next question, well, actually, before the question, I would like to say a couple of things to the audience. If you remember, guys, a while ago, in one of my videos, I announced a possible collaboration on AI. If maybe some of you remember that. I'm actually casually a part of this consortium. I can confidently say that, and I'm proud to be a part of this nonprofit organization, which helps people around the world. And my thought process was somehow maybe we can engage with Turkish universities with this consortium, because one of their main goals, or I don't know how you say it, to collaborate with universities that Konrad just mentioned. So this is a possibility. And now I would like to ask Konrad how we can actually, what type of structure we can create, or what type of path we can follow for Turkish universities, or maybe individuals even, or maybe even some private companies, I don't know, to collaborate and engage with AI Innovation Consortium.
Okay, so I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to be like a politician, and I'm going to answer my own question first, and then answer your question.
Okay, no, okay, go ahead.
Actually, what I want is to I want to connect to maybe and empathize with people listening,
right?
and one of my thoughts was, okay, well, I shared with you like concepts of the consortium, kind of my experience and everything. But so what, right? To you as an audience, like, how does that help you?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll start tying back my professional experience in Poland with and like we talked about all the reason why people invest and everything. One of the key things I think that I took away that I think is an important point to drive a person to evolving their professional career is basically that I saw that all this investment that is coming into Poland, a lot of it is foreign, a lot of it is still controlled at the corporate level externally from Poland, right? So that I think not just for Polish people, but for people working in Poland, and that probably applies maybe to some extent also in Turkey, is that there's only so far you can advance career-wise, and there's only so far you can grow as an individual if that's the case. So I think, and I'll tell you a personal experience that you maybe know indirectly, and I'll make it ambiguous so we don't mention any names or get anybody in trouble. But
okay, no worries.
What I saw was there was, even at the top level management, a inability to make decisions that were not in the tight constructs of what was defined, right? So whereas where the money was coming from, those decisions can be made at management level a lot lower, but when upper management, when we worked there together and in other places as well, something was put on the table and they were told, no, this is your limitations. And I'm being very politically correct because I want to say something that's a great analogy, but I can't. But the point is, I think as an individual, you should set yourself a very ambitious goal as to what you want to achieve. And then don't limit yourself in where you are today in terms of the organization or in terms of the current circumstances to get to that goal, which means that, and this is related to answer your question, is that look at all the tools dispensable to you, whether it be online skills, whether it be moving from the organization that you are today to a place that maybe suits your career path better, whether it be evolving your skill sets in a way that is relevant, not just for you to get a 10% salary increase, but for you to get to that ambitious goal. So the way that I see that is okay. So artificial intelligence, right? It's a technology, hyper automation, artificial intelligence, all those dimensions of how the workforce is changing and how the landscape of the world will change. And I say that as a thought leader, as someone that really feels that artificial intelligence will and is changing the world, right? That will mean that the person in the manufacturing centers that doesn't have an education will also have to understand artificial intelligence because they will be a domain expert to train it or to use tooling. The person that's in school today that is learning about artificial intelligence will, maybe if they're in data science or something, will use that skill sets in the professional career. And where do they want to get with that, right? Because is it just a part of their toolkits to get to some management position? Do they want to reinvent some sort of technology that exists today? Do they want to create the cure for cancer by using artificial intelligence in genomics or whatever? So that is part of the dimensions of what these incubators do for the schools. They establish a physical lab. They help students upskill themselves. So we have partnerships with NVIDIA, which is a GPU people. We have partnerships with big cell provider, we have AWS. So all those partners actually help develop workforce development and skill development tracks for everyone working in the consortium. So you learn about the newest toolkits from NVIDIA that help you with taking AI models and deploying them to edge devices. You learn about how to use the Amazon Web Service platform to do computer vision training so that you can build a computer vision model, maybe because if you're working in the transportation ministry and you want to develop a smart city platform that helps understand traffic patterns or whatever else, right? So I want to say that your answer probably is much more deeper, or my answer to your question is much more deeper. But I wanted to throw it in because I think it is important. I believe so. So if the call to action that you wanted to say was, okay, universities in Turkey collaborate with the consortium, then we welcome that, and Gökhan, you probably will be the one that would be priming that anyway at some point in the future.
Yeah.
But that call to action only is successful if, like, your audience and other people connect to it and see value out of it, right? So that's the value. That's the value, is that grassroots skill sets, regardless if they're technical or if they're practical, that you get out of the consortium and the lab and everything.
Right. So I have a follow-up question to that, actually. So today AI is hype, and everyone somehow using or trying to use AI. So as an individual or as a company, do you think if we put a distance between us and AI, we'll be in trouble in the future? Just because we don't use AI, and maybe we are we are facing with losing our positions, or losing market values, market shares in the industry.
You mean so you're saying if you don't use it, then another company that did something
not using, adapting, slowly transitioning to
AI. I think I mean in a lot of different dimensions, and also if you read if you casually follow artificial intelligence, there's a lot of articles that talk about your point, right? It's if you don't invest in the tech now in your industry and your competitors do, and that tech will advance. Like if you're in IT, it could be just being able to have advanced technologies that you can sell to the market. If you're in the industry that's buying the technology, automating processes that you couldn't automate before, robotic or just some other processes. If your competitors do that and you don't,
then you lose.
And then of course you lose, right? And there's, there's examples across every industry that I can give that say that, right? That's absolutely the case.
Of course. Fair enough. I mean, this is an expected, I guess, outcome. So if you let me, I will just go back to the chat because we have a couple of questions to answer. So
you go back. How much time do we have? And that's another thing I probably should have asked you before.
It's just because usually it's about 35-40 minutes. And
okay, so we still have some.
Yeah, we still have some time. Because would you like to add a couple things?
No, I'm just here for the ride. So.
No, I have more questions myself, and of course I will ask from the chat as well.
Yeah, so, sure. Let's get to that.
Yeah. So actually, there is a common question that I see in the chat asking that what programming languages should they invest, especially when it comes to IoT and AI, and maybe in your. I mean, actually, you can I believe respond to that.
Okay. Well, so if you're in. I mean, Python, just because that seems to be a common development language for a lot of different libraries in the AI space and in the IoT space. Node.js, because it also is kind of a library that does, or a language that is used to support some information exchange that's extracted from clouds, web services, and things like that. Those are two. But I think this is an important discussion point, but I won't get into it too much. I think the idea that what language should I learn is important to some extent, but also one thing you should understand as an IT professional is that what all the tech companies, the big tech companies are trying to do is they're trying to essentially create tooling that for the average IT professional can be used to greatly accelerate that IT group's ability to use AI through their cloud services. So I would say above and beyond knowing a programming language, explore and begin to use, and I'm not saying this because I have a vested interest in any cloud, I don't, like it's not a selling pitch, but explore and use tools. And by tools, I mean that these tools will still demand that you know programming languages, but those tools will be, in many cases, the future of the development process to support artificial intelligence, model development. And unless you really know the constructs of neural networks and the mathematics behind them, then for all intent and purpose, these tools will be the right things for you to get from, nothing to a solution to a problem. So those tools include the Amazon Web Services, the IBM Watson, the Microsoft Azure, the Google Portfolio. All those tools that are the AI portfolio tools are important. So look at it from different dimensions, I think is the point.
Point taken. Another question coming from the chat. Do you recommend TensorFlow framework in Python for AI? And I know the response of that, but I would like to hear, what would you like to say?
Yeah, I mean, sure. That's a good a library to use to support your neural net, let's say, grassroots work. But so, again, it comes back to, are you doing this for exploratory understanding, or are you doing this for commercial purpose? Because the reality is, yeah, you can build using the TensorFlow libraries, train and build a model, and then what do you do with that model? Where you're going to have to deploy it so that it's inferenceable by whatever data that you want to feed to it, so it can provide some predictive analytics. And if it's if that model is going to be deployed commercially, where can you host it? How can you scale it? Can it be trained in an unsupervised way with new data so that it can understand? And all those dimensions, demand that you consider architecture and in this case, I would say like cloud-based solutions that are already provided to you that will allow you to manage. Let's say if you're deploying it to the edge because you're using it for a smart city computer vision system, or a platform to engage or to analyze natural language from thousands of customers in your Salesforce platform, or whatever it is. Any of those commercial paths, need everybody to start thinking, not just is in terms of AI library, but what do we do after that? And how do we support that architecturally?
Right. I believe this is a very detailed answer to this question.
You said I talked too much?
No. No, I'm not saying that. So
you should have like a little list. So if my speaker is talking too much, what do I say? And then number 3 is, that's a very detailed answer.
No, actually, how I measure it, the engagement is really good, and I'm having really great questions on the chat. So this is how I see.
Okay.
This is how I understand. This is a great conversation and a great session, actually. So the last question from the chat that I would like to ask: what kind of data you work on usually? It's not. I don't think it's only one type of data, but maybe you would like to say something about it.
You mean what type of data do I work on?
I mean, yeah. You work.
Well, so this is maybe a good lead-in question to a point I wanted to make. So first, in terms of my experience, there's three common, I suppose, data sets that are diverse. One of them is imagery and video for computer vision. Another is natural language, meaning large data sets of unstructured natural language information. So that could be like work orders or something. Like we've done a lot of stuff where we're looking at notes in asset management systems taken from 5 years of information from maintenance personnel that were never holistically looked at because traditional statistical models don't consume natural language as mechanisms to support like prescriptive analytics or something. And then traditional data in the form of sensor information or some other quantitative data, right? So I think those are three buckets of data. And let me get my point in here that I wanted to communicate, because I think it represents maybe a reality for some people working in IT, is that to build up an effective AI strategy with a result out of that strategy that leads to deployment of artificial intelligence at a scalable and holistic level into organizations, some of the initial steps that you can take and make yourself relevant is to understand that robust AI models demand for robust data strategies, which include things like making sure that you're collecting information in the first place. So, right, so there's actually a term that was created by Gartner called infonomics, which is basically the monetization or the way to assess the value of your data and monetize it. And monetize it is kind of a term that says, well, not just sell the data, but understand how valuable it is for you. And one of the other underlining points of infonomics is that data doesn't lose value. So considering the idea that you should be collecting, if you understand why you want to collect this data, you should be collecting it. So in other words, those maintenance records or that you're collecting, maybe at first glance, if you don't think strategically, natural language information may not be valuable for you, millions of records of it, right? Because once you use it, maybe you don't care about it because you used it to support, I don't know, like a net promoter score survey for your customers, or you used it to build some statistical model to understand something about your organization. But that data collection, whether it be in IT or manufacturing for capturing data about your products, in the future becomes essential pieces to actually building up AI models successfully, robust AI models. So that data becomes very valuable, and knowing the process of governing that data, of creating an architecture to support the collection of that data, of assuring that it will be cleansed and appropriately prepped so that eventually it can be used for AI purposes, is a dimension of the future of AI in industries that maybe you like. If you're the audience in your company hasn't done anything with AI, that initial legwork, it makes you relevant. Knowing about the principles of big data, about structuring data to support artificial intelligence model development, because that legwork will become the legwork that will eventually lead to implementations of artificial intelligence, right? So I think that is maybe an altogether separate discussion. But it is a discussion that probably is relevant to many people in the audience if they're looking to be relevant within their own organization today, because it may be too much of a jump to go from 0 to 100 in the organization in terms of, well, I'm ready to deploy AI, and that doesn't. Okay, but the organization isn't ready, and maybe you can still do science projects or pilot projects, but there's plenty of work to be done before that point that can make you relevant as an IT professional that is not directly tied into artificial intelligence, but indirectly.
Sure.
I
have follow-up questions. Just a second. Give me a second because I'm having a problem here. Just a second. I'm coming. For some reason, my phone's battery reached to 10%, which is not very common. So I just need to use my power bank to.
Are you taking this off your phone?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because the camera is better, obviously.
Okay. I didn't mention you need a haircut, right?
I know I need it. However, my cable is not working.
Quarantine cuts. I think we're both sporting quarantine cuts.
Well, I mean, as I said, it's more than 1 year. So
we had this conversation offline. You didn't want to expose the reason, but
I am having a problem here. That's really interesting.
What does that mean? If we're under 10%, that means you shut down?
There's a possibility. My power bank is here, but obviously it's not clicking.
Well, we're still at 10%, so...
Yeah, okay. So my next questions actually ties back to all these discussions. And actually, I know it's not in place yet, but we discussed this on high level. I would like to mention the future certifications that the consortium is willing to, provide to the market, and the possibilities to get those certifications in the future, and of course, the validation of those certifications in the market. This will be my actually follow-up question.
Okay. Well, so like I said, we have this workforce development thread of the consortium. And in that group, we have a few deans of the universities that we work with, University of Houston, Penn State, a few others as well. And in that collective group, we are developing different learning tracks for the consortium participants. And one of the goals is to create external learning tracks for any audience interested in upskilling in artificial intelligence. So the certifications themselves, I suppose for your audience, would be e-learning like certifications, and they would include being able to use tooling from our industrial partners, which I think is very important, and also some basic preparatory e-learning classes on just data science, deep learning, etc. And then the opportunity to work remotely in our incubators, supporting some relevant component of our incubator work. So it's a spectrum of different, I suppose, preparation work so that you can begin using it for the purpose of practical purpose. So the program is not yet ready, but it will be ready depending on how quickly we get it up, either Q2 or Q3 of this year. And so, you'll, I suppose, be able to share that with your audience in that time.
Sure, of course.
So I think that answers your question.
Yeah, it answered my question. So I know this is also a very deep discussion, but from AI and IoT perspective, very brief, how do you see the future of, because this question also come to my table almost every day. How do you see the future of ID? How do you see the future of AI? And as a top leader, again, how do you see it? Very good.
Okay. Do you want me to be geographic specific or just general? General,
I guess.
Okay. So the future of artificial intelligence. I think I mean, we see this every day with commercial products, but we will see AI become and is becoming a part of everyone's life in a very connected way, right? So the Alexas, the smart homes, the autonomous driving, the autonomous drones, the algorithms that are giving me ads about stuff that I just talked to my wife about that makes me think that they're listening to me. So those are all evolving artificial intelligence pieces that connect to our everyday lives that will continue to become more prevalent in the workforce. Again, I'm sure most people know, right? Hyper automation, robotic automation, all that is becoming a reality, from the automated warehouses that Amazon uses to deliver our Amazon orders to autonomous vehicles that inevitably will be the future of our everyday lives. In manufacturing sector, more and more processes becoming automated, like and processes that demanded workforce that will no longer demand workforce. And there's a dimension to COVID there too. I mean, so we've had a lot of people that have engaged us in using AI automation, where the driver eventually is going to be operational, like to save money, but initially was, I have too many people on my production line right now and they're too close together. And for COVID purposes, we need to change that. So, and then from the professional career perspective, I think, so again, cliche answers, huge gap in technical skills right now in the market that will eventually be flooded with professionals looking to upskill themselves. And so the idea is to stay ahead of the game. And I think part of that is having AI expertise, but having it with domain connection. So focus not just on the base work of learning AI, but focus on how it connects to relevant industry problems and maybe specific vertical. Pharmaceuticals has a whole range of different artificial intelligence threads that are some are more robust than others. Manufacturing has a different one. Retail industry, consumer analytics. So to keep yourself relevant, upskill yourself in AI, but upskill yourself in AI relevant to specific industry problems, or align yourself to where the technology is going. Not now because you're being asked to learn about data science, but when you get out into the workforce, where it will be. So I think we covered some of that, where it will be topics here as well.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, that was the answer that I actually looked for. So thanks for that. So actually, it's minute 47. We are actually slowly coming to an end. It was I believe this was a very valuable information that you gave to everyone, including myself. So again, I really appreciate your time. We would keep it a bit longer, but however, I'm like, it's going to die in a couple of minutes, so I would like to end this discussion for now, but I'm looking for the second part, if you're also interested. Sure, the audience will be really interested to ask you more questions in more detail, because this was like an introduction. People get to know you, and then I'm sure in the second people will ask more detailed and more related questions to your industry and to your
Sure, I'll be glad to join you again, Gökhan. You're a little choppy. I think maybe that's your phone about to die. But absolutely, thank you to the audience.
So I will just end the session for now, guys. Thanks everyone for being with us, and appreciate it again. We would like to see you on the next week, Sunday, at the same time. Until that time, take care and bye for now.